Originally recorded live, Faith Speaks is now a podcast. Watch the stories at incmedia.org or press play and listen here. Raise your hand if anyone has ever made a comment about your appearance. Too fat, too skinny, too dark. It's too much. Hi, I'm Macy Padilla. I'm a mom of 2 daughters, a sister to 2 women, and a friend to many who know these comments all too well. You're tuned into the Faith Speaks podcast, and today's story may strike a chord in all of us. It's about body image. Michelle Delos Reyes navigates her story about how she was able to overcome the outside noise.
Do you know what it's like to be the fat kid? Let me tell you. At the age of 6, I was told I was bigger than the kids my age. At the age of 8, I was told to lose 10 pounds because I fit into the obese category. When I turned 9, I overheard someone tell my mom in Tagalog, "Yung anak mo, mukhang napabayaan sa kusina." Or, "Hey, looks like your kid was left in the kitchen for too long." When I became a teenager, when family reunions or social gatherings were a thing, there's always someone or that relative that greets you like this. "Uy, ang taba mo na. Ano nangyari sa'yo?" Or, "Hey, you got fat. What happened to you?"
Pause. We've all heard these things. I know I have, and I might have been guilty of making these comments too. It's kind of an unofficial greeting, and it's time to stop and think, what do these remarks mean to the ones who's receiving them?
And then there was high school. Of course, I was bullied. I was fat. I was the center of jokes. I wasn't taken seriously, and the name calling was endless. Baboy, fat face, tabachoy, ballena, thunder thighs, all of which destroyed my self-esteem. Because of that, I spent most of my life trying to figure out what's wrong with me. To see my reflection in the mirror, I felt disgusted. I hated being fat. I hated the way I looked. I hated my body. Eventually, that hatred manifested into a voice in my head that told me to starve myself, purge, cause harm to my body whenever I felt hungry. When I switched schools, 10th grade, sophomore year of high school, I actively skipped meals and avoided eating. My mom would bring me packed lunch to school, but I would just give it to my classmates or throw it away. I'm sorry, Ma. Birthday celebrations or any gathering that involved food was a nightmare. Whenever I felt hungry or was tempted to eat because, again, I was hungry, I would run out, head straight to the toilet, gripping the sink a few times and looking at myself in the mirror, repeatedly saying, "You're losing control. Get a hold of yourself. You're already fat. You don't deserve to eat." Over and over, until the hunger subsided. But it doesn't end there. I was exercising to the extreme. I was putting hours of all sorts of full body workouts, you name it. And the voice in my head said, "You do not get to rest until you feel lightheaded or close to fainting." Exercise became my form of punishment for being fat, for making a mistake to eat a meal, or for not purging.
Hearing this is heartbreaking. I can't help but think sometimes the hardest battles are the ones that no one else can see. Sometimes the comments we make sting harder than what we intend, which leads me to ask, how would you help the one that you love in the situation? How would you recognize when someone was hurting or needing help?
One day in school, I was called to the guidance counselor's office. I was scared, shocked, nervous even. There, I was told, "You look sick," and that they were worried. Months later, through their assistance, I was able to get a diagnosis. It was UFED, an unspecified feeding or eating disorder. It was an eating disorder that displayed both anorexic, bulimic, and binge disorder traits. I couldn't believe it. It made me decide if I wanted their help or seek professional help, but I was too stubborn to even understand what it was that was wrong with me. I mean, how could I? All my life, all I've known is that I'm fat. It was a turning point for me when my parents started to pick on a few things. The after-meal toilet visits, constantly weighing myself, brushing my teeth obsessively. They began to worry when my appearance changed drastically within that year, ever since I switched schools. They said to me, "Anak, tuyong-tuyo ka na." Or dry was the word they used to describe the way I looked. I was in a dark place. I didn't feel right or comfortable with who I was anymore. I thought to myself, losing weight can't be my life's purpose. It can't be. I was living in fear of gaining weight, unable to experience life because this eating disorder is constantly telling me to exercise till I drop, skip meals, avoid hanging out with friends. I thought to myself, whenever I talk to God, why did I have to have this body to begin with? It was around that time when, at worship service, a minister read a verse that hit me. The verse encourages us not to be anxious about our lives, about what we're going to eat, about our bodies and what we're going to wear, because life is about more than food, more than our bodies, and more than clothing. That's when I noticed. It was quiet up here. My mind. As if for a second, that voice in my head was gone. That negative voice that had been bullying me all this time, it was just utter silence. And then after that worship service, I literally felt the shift. It really was like a light switch. It was the beginning of an answered prayer.
Wow, that gave me chills. Have you ever felt that moment? The moment when your fears, your anxieties, all your problems were answered in the worship service? Like it was a verse or a lesson that was tailor-made just for you?
The next few years was a path of recovery. I now keep a food diary and a journal to practice venting out my thoughts and inner turmoil onto paper rather than verbalizing it all towards myself. When writing these negative thoughts down, I find that it strips away their power that hurt me and feed the voice in my head. Coupled with lots of prayer, I began to see possibilities of a more peaceful and mindful existence. I met a wonderful support group of friends that have made me feel less insecure and start appreciating myself more. And slowly, I started eating out in public again. In fact, my sisters and we became closer through enjoying food. I still exercise every now and then. In fact, just recently, I got into kickboxing. I learned to shift my perspective and change my mindset with exercise. Exercise isn't a form of punishment for what you ate. It shouldn't be. Exercise is a celebration of what your body can do. Through counseling and numerous therapy sessions, I learned that the voice in my head was a projection of myself being my biggest bully. I was my biggest bully. It was tough and uncomfortable coming to that realization, but looking back and reflecting, it was necessary for me to let go of the restrictions and progressively be grateful for what God has given me.
I love that Michelle was able to spin her anxieties and her negativity into something positive. She said, exercise is not a form of punishment. It's a celebration for what your body can do. And what a beautiful mindset that is so inspiring. How do you help spin negative thoughts into moments of gratitude or positivity?
And most importantly, I find mental peace when I'm in the house of God. During choir practices, as we sing hymns of praises, all I can think of is how much God has helped me through my ordeal. There's never any time for me to give space to that bullying voice in my head to tell me all the things I lack and loathe about myself. Anytime I'm talking or praying to God, I notice that I focus less on myself and focus more on giving glory to Him. When I do more for God, whether it be in performing my duties or involving myself in church activities, there's no room to think of my shortcomings and insecurities. It's where the entire world and its unrealistic expectations that have been forced upon me are blocked out. It's where self-hatred is replaced with gratitude for what God has given. Today, while I was getting ready for this event, I looked at myself in the mirror, and I don't feel disgusted anymore. I don't see my body for its appearance. I see it for its function. I see the weight my arms have carried when helping my mom with groceries. I see all the beautiful places I've been because my feet have taken me there. I see the sparkle in my eyes when I see my friends, my family, and my puppy. And most of all, I see myself wearing my toga and my hands firmly holding my hymnal book. I feel empowered knowing that this body of mine has lived through so much in the span of 22 years. I feel strong knowing that my identity is not determined by the labels this world has put on me. I am more than my eating disorder, more than the comments I received in life, that I am more than what the voice in my head tells me I am. I stand in front of you today, not as the fat kid that developed an eating disorder, but rather as a child of God, free of the world's labels and insecurities. A child of God who may have been broken, but was pieced back together by His quiet strength, His comfort, and His undeniable love. Thank you.
Michelle's story of self-acceptance and empowerment is a reminder for me to speak positivity into people around me. It's a reminder that the weight of your words, they may carry more than you think, and to not be defined by the opinions of others. And the identity that matters most is that you are a child of God. Thanks for listening to Faith Speaks podcast. If this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend, because we all need a little reminder that the foundation for self-love is God's love. Catch more real stories like this on Faith Speaks, now streaming on the podcast.